today's bulletin we have notice of an amnesty to the rebels of the New Gallifrey chapter of House Prydon, offered by the Governor of Olyesti and Chancellor of the Olyesti chapter of House Prydon, with, we believe, the full support of the Lord President of the High Council of Time Lords of New Gallifrey. We also have footage from a significant event which took place recently, involving the dissident chapter of House Prydon. This footage is becoming known as the Khan incident. But first, last night Lady Judy, Governor of Olyesti, gave an address offering amnesty to members of the exiled Prydonian chapter, alongside a robust response to Lady Karma's declaration. Speaking from the Prydonian chambers on Olyesti, she had this to say.
My fellow Time Lords, the Prydonian chapter, by which I do of course mean the non-exiled, non-traitorous Prydonian chapter, hereby offer amnesty to all exiled Prydonians of the former New Gallifrey chapter who wish to forsake the tyranny of Lady Karma. The Prydonian chapter will welcome you without consequence, as we have welcomed many who have already forsworn their insane dictator's actions. Furthermore, in light of recent events and my nomination for the position of Lord Chancellor by Lord Chancellor Sputnik, my current position as governor will become vacant. Any chapter leader, by which I mean any true chapter leader, that is recognized by the High Council and is not being run by a cabal of criminals, may run for the position. With regard to Lady Karma's demands, I have the following to say. We agree that your terms are not up for negotiation. Your first demand, denied. You are not an independent faction. You are exiles. This is a punishment, not an opportunity to swan off and do whatever you want without consequence. Your second demand, denied. I hope your whining for a seat on the High Council is really a joke, and if it is, it's in very poor taste. You compare yourselves to Olyesti. We were granted a seat by the Lord President through his decision, not by demands. If we did demand both independence from the High Council and the ability to sit on the High Council, do you honestly think that we would be granted it? This is a stupid, childish demand. You cannot honestly believe it will be granted. The only seat you'll be given will be one in a prison cell. Demand 3, denied. You cannot keep your TTCs operational. You are simply posturing. We know this, you know this. What's next? You'll be claiming you're the doctor? Pull the other one, it's got bells on. Your saber rattling about bringing Abbott to justice does not concern us. We do not need the help of a powerless, formal cardinal to ensure he faces justice. You may think you are coy and clever, which is silly wordplay, but your attempt to bargain over Abbott only serves to make it clear that you are just as guilty as he is over the attack on Lord Sputnik, the result of a botched attempt to assassinate the Lord President. You clearly have no regard for the safety of the citizens of New Gallifrey, and you will face punishment for your crimes. Finally, I turn to Karma's threat over the Jinn. Oh my goodness, are we supposed to be scared? Oh no, the boogeyman is coming to get us. What will we do? Certainly not run to a traitor, that's for sure. You are a fool, Karma, and we see right through you. If the Jinn resurfaces, it will be because something bad has happened or is about to happen. Right now, the only reason I can think of for his return is because he knows what you and your cadre of co-conspirators are up to. We all know the Jinn was the former leader of the Skendals chapter. If he heard your smart-aleck comments about the state of his chapter, I would not be trying to scare others about his return. Spend your time preparing for his inevitable retribution. His next coming will be your doing. I advise you to face your punishment with whatever dignity you can claw together.
In what is being seen as a significant development in the ongoing crisis, we have information concerning the recent Khan incident involving the exile chapter of House Prydon.
The video you are about to see is a video of what is now known as the Khan incident, which happened very recently. The footage has been taken from one of the House Prydon of New Gallifrey's TTCs, supplied by Lady Karma herself. For security purposes, all voices have been removed from this transmission, and an actor, namely myself, will be reading out a corrected transcript which will overlay on top of the video itself. As the exiled Prydonians gather in the console room of the Nereid, her pilot, Ordinal Thursday, responds to Lord President Sen's latest public address and the support of Councillor Mornington of the Cerulean House. Today, we let him know that we are not afraid. He chooses to try to intimidate us by letting it be known that he has begun unpacking some dusty old weapons from his private museum and sellotaping them to the hull of that recommissioned floating pleasure palace of his. Today, we show him how Prydon rises. She turns, and with a gesture, yields the floor to Lady Karma. Lady Karma addresses them while Ordinal Thursday activates the capsule's defence systems and passes control to the chapter's new House Castellan. Lady Karma smirks a tiny bit. Well, before we begin, as we are declared outlaws and the chariots open the table of war, there is that rather annoying little surveillance satellite in New Gallifrey's orbit. Let's make it disappear. As the Castellan, the mysterious self-described madman, operates the controls, Nereid's systems deliver their verdict, identifying remote vortex surveillance drone EK-01 and loosing a salvo of 3 chronodyne anti-temporal torpedoes with predictable results for the unfortunate drone, leaving Prydon, for a time, unwatched and free to act. Lady Karma once again addresses the Lords of Prydon, her voice growing formal with oratory. In the last days of the Time War, I journeyed to the Dark Tower, and in the empty tomb of Rassilon took up the secondary controls of the Timescoop. I am Prydonian, but now is the time to reveal to you something else. Before Prydon, in times long forgotten, I was someone else, a member of a high and ancient order, ignobly cast down and forced into exile, just as we have been today. Back then, on the last day, I began to cause a restitution when I saved my world from being another casualty of Rassilon's and the Renegades' war. I took my world and lifted it out of the path of the fire, drawing the shattered and dying ruins of its simulacra from a burned universe to be sucked in to fill the gap behind it, and a few brave, doomed volunteers of our order to maintain the facade until the end. Using all the power of Gallifrey to hide the world of the exiles deep within the fabric of the capsule of another of my Prydonian brethren, sending her and her Nereid and her precious cargo through the void to SL space. Now, once again, we are exiles, cast out, degraded, mocked, but I am who I am, High Cardinal of Prydon, keeper of the great key once held by chancellors, then keepers, then given over into my possession. She turns, withdrawing a key from her clothing, a small unremarkable key, and pressing it into Ordinal Thursday's hand. Use it as directed, and then return to me. Karma once again addresses the Prydonians. Today this hiding, this degradation ends. Today we rise. Prydon has fallen far, but you and we do not climb back up alone, for today our great and noble orders become one. on the day that Karn returns. Thursday then takes the key from Karma and places it in the slot on the console, pressing it home and begins. For the last 25 years relative time, the Lady Karma's capsule has been docked with mine. Thursday continues, darting around the console, adjusting dials and switches, pooling resources, channeling all the power reserves of a High Council TT capsule, which are quite impressive. By the way, into Nereid's storage banks in preparation for this moment, which now finally arrives, not quite the way we were hoping. The Great Key, the tool of Rassilon, control and understanding of the quantum intricacies of the energy mass equation used to forge the very first dematerialization circuits and other, slightly more regrettable devices of legend, will allow us to harness that power. Since the war, Gallifrey's sister has lain hidden, trapped like a fly in amber, stored within the architectural configuration buffer of this capsule, until today. Today, we need a planet. More than that, we need a focus, a direction, a new hope, before we risk our society plunging into yet another insane war. Nereid's systems are now aligned towards this goal, channeling the capabilities of the Great Key in order to become what you might call the greatest anti-weapon ever envisaged. If you're familiar with the tech legends of our own time, then we might call it the remat gun, if you will. Her hand grips the control panel, her other hand reaching out and turning the Great Key in its slot, opening the heart of her capsule and staring into it. As titanic energies rip through the craft, power surges up from the bowels of Nereid, forcing on the space-time element at the core of the console and blasting out through the open doors. A whole world locked away, all these years waiting, frozen, not an end, just a pause, a long and pregnant pause ripe with promise, and now waiting for this day. The new home for House Prydon, that is, and the sisterhood that was united together. Karn, for a long time the home of Lady Karma, born among the ancient sisterhood. Karn, and the buried secrets hidden beneath the ruins of the Priory. Karn, reborn and standing proud once again as the Prydonians venture forth onto their new home. The old memories of Cardinal Karma reborn just as they remained in our thoughts as she leads them across the broken plain to the treasures beyond. As the old Earth song has it, the hopes and fears of all the years are born in thee tonight.
Stay tuned to NGPR, your news service for New Gallifrey.